Greetings, fellow seekers of truth and unravelers of ancient enigmas. Welcome to Ancient Relics Keeper, where history's most profound secrets await your keen discovery. The storm beneath the beauty. Santorini is teetering on the edge of eruption. When people think of the Ion Islands in Greece, the image that often comes to mind is one of sun-drenched balconies, a glass of wine in hand, gazing out over an endless, tranquil blue sea. It's hard to imagine that this paradise is currently facing a relentless string of powerful earthquakes, as if the entire island has become a chessboard where nature is making its next move. Yet, in reality, Santorini and neighboring islands like Amoros and Anaphi are constantly trembling from seismic activity, with some quakes reaching as high as 5.3 on the RTOR scale. While that level of shaking isn't enough to destroy everything, it's certainly enough to leave the residents anxious and uneasy. Few realize that Santorini was once home to a flourishing civilization. But all of that was swept away by a devastating act of nature. In those tense days of February, the island's serenity gave way to a sense of dread. People no longer lingered over glasses of ouzo instead. They faced a gnawing fear as the tremors refused to stop. The anxiety grew so severe that more than 23% of the island's residents packed their belongings and hurriedly left their homeland. Meanwhile, local authorities were forced to close schools, ban large indoor gatherings, and warn everyone to stay away from the beaches and those iconic towering cliffs. The very features that make Santorini beautiful now turned into looming dangers. Tennessee, buried deep underground, is a place locals have whispered about for more than 2 centuries. The Cave of the Bell Witch. According to local folklore, this was once home to a malicious spirit that terrorized some of the region's earliest settlers. It all supposedly began in the summer of 1817 when the Bell family, who lived on a nearby farm, became the target of a mysterious, malevolent force. This spirit tormented them relentlessly and, as legend has it, eventually poisoned the family's patriarch, John Bell, and haunted his daughters for years afterward. The culprit claimed to be the ghost of a woman named Kate Batts, a former neighbor of the Bell family. She accused John Bell of cheating her in a land deal. Consumed by anger, she returned after her death in the form of a witch, determined to destroy his family. Today, many might dismiss this as just a chilling folktale, but there are details that give people pause. Former President Andrew Jackson once declared that he would rather face the entire British Army than spend another night at the Bell family farm after he and his soldiers camped there and experienced inexplicable events themselves. No one can say for certain whether there really is a witch haunting that damp cave or exactly when the place became a symbol of evil. Yet even now it remains one of the most haunting and infamous destinations in America. Scientists and a growing unease. Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis tried to reassure the public by declaring a state of emergency and insisting that the government placed its full trust in science, even though in truth, the scientists themselves could not hide their anxiety. This really is a mystery, admitted volcanologist David Pyle from the University of Oxford. And when an Oxford expert calls something baffling, it's clear the situation is far from simple. This time the earthquakes were not following the usual script. Instead of a single major slip followed by a series of weaker aftershocks, Greece was witnessing a string of quakes, all with nearly the same intensity, striking again and again. Santorini sits atop a still active volcanic system. The famous sunsets are only the surface. Hidden below is a geological time bomb just waiting to go off. Around 1600 BC, a massive eruption reshaped the entire island, erased an entire civilization, and helped inspire the legend of Atlantis. In fact, many people believe Santorini may actually be the true Atlantis. Tectonic fault or volcano. This time though, experts are not blaming magma. The culprit appears to be a fault line offshore creaking and groaning like an old wooden ship in the middle of a storm. Marine volcanologist Isabel Yeo from the National Oceanography Center in Southampton insists that Santorini is experiencing tectonic activity, not volcanic, Earthquake sequences like this are as unpredictable as a fickle friend, never following any plan, happening just as they please. In some places, such as Iceland, strings of earthquakes can signal magma moving beneath the surface and sometimes even precede eruptions. But in areas like Yellowstone, these earthquake clusters can last for weeks without anything happening. No lava, no explosions, just sleepless nights for seismologists who end up finding nothing. Many scientists suspect the earthquakes around Santorini might be caused by hidden underground fluids sneaking through cracks in the earth like a tense game of Jenga between nature and humanity. It's these flows that could be pushing the tectonic plates apart, triggering tremors across the region. Before 1922, the world of archaeology had all but given up hope of ever finding the tomb of Tutankhamun. This young pharaoh who reigned for less than a decade 3,000 years ago was seen as more legend than fact. At the time, Egyptologists believed that every tomb in the Valley of the Kings had either been excavated or looted to ruin. So, when the tomb of Tutankhamun was discovered, buried beneath more than 150,000 tons of rock, the entire world was astonished. The burial was so well concealed that without a dogged search, it might never have been found at all. Tutankhamun could have remained in the darkness to this very day. Although the tomb was filled with so many treasures that they could not be carried away in a single wheelbarrow, few realized it had actually been broken into twice right after the burial. Thieves smashed their way in, stole smaller items, and vanished. Officials of the time resealed the entrance, but soon after it was raided again, and more objects were stolen. The greatest mystery is that no one knows exactly when the tomb was forgotten. It's clear that in the years after the king's death, his resting place was still known. But over time, it became buried under sand and stone and disappeared from human memory for thousands of years. The tiny Aluxes. In Maya mythology, there are stories of tiny human-like creatures, almost like goblins, who delight in causing mischief and chaos. They're called Aluxes, or sometimes simply the little people. Tales of these cunning beings have been passed down for centuries. As unbelievable as it sounds, some people still believe they truly exist. It is said that Aluxes dwell around the Yucatan Peninsula and are completely invisible to the human eye. They slip through jungles or hide deep in caves, revealing themselves only when they choose. When they do appear, their looks are bizarre. Eyes as wide as an owl's, darting about as quickly as squirrels. Their bodies a patchwork of animals, bird heads, deer legs, skin as rough as a lizard's. Many say they show up in the darkness with glowing red eyes just to scare people for fun. Today, Aluxes are mostly dismissed as superstition. But for the ancient Maya, they were taken very seriously. Travelers would sometimes encounter them on journeys through the forest and be asked for offerings. Anyone who refused would be tormented by the entire band for the rest of the trip, sometimes even falling ill or waking to bite marks after dark. Thousands of years ago, the Persians engineered one of the world's earliest hydraulic wonders, the Quanet irrigation system, a technology that spread not only across Iran, but throughout the ancient Middle East. This technique required digging long underground tunnels through arid land, channeling water from deep aquifers up to the surface, turning barren ground into fertile farmland. With much of ancient Persia made up of desert, the method became a lifeline for growing cities and a rising civilization. The principle behind the Qanat is simple but remarkably clever. A deep well is dug at the highest point of an area until it reaches an underground water source. From there, a sloping man-made tunnel guides the water down toward lower ground. A network of channels, dams, and sluice gates continues to distribute the flow for irrigation or drinking water. All of it works purely by gravity. No engines or pumps required. The system provides clean water, sustains crops, and stands as a testament to the engineering genius of ancient Persia. Though the Persians were the pioneers, they weren't the only ones. Today, tens of thousands of Quanets, sometimes called by other names, still exist in more than 35 countries. If you've ever wondered where the gateway to the underworld lies in voodoo belief, the legend of Guinea might be the answer. It's said there are 7 gates scattered across New Orleans' French Quarter, each opening a passage to Guinea, the afterlife realm in voodoo faith. But unlike the hell of Western religion, Guinea isn't a place of torment. Instead, it's a quiet, shadowy domain where wandering souls wait before reuniting with their ancestors. Ruling over Guinea is a figure in a skeleton suit and top hat, Baron Midi, the god of death in voodoo tradition. According to American voodoo practitioners, the 7 gates are spread out along Canal Street in cemeteries like Street Louis, Greenwood, Cypress Grove, and Street Patrick. Each cemetery acts as a bridge between the world of the living, NASA, and the City Killer asteroid update. NASA's latest updates on the so-called City Killer asteroid have brought a wave of relief to a world on edge about asteroid 2024 YR4. For months, this space rock kept scientists on alert. At one point, holding a 1 in 32 chance of slamming into Earth. But good news has arrived. NASA just confirmed that the odds have now plunged to only 1 in 26,000. Overnight, the threat of humanity being wiped out by an asteroid has nearly vanished. To put that in perspective, your chances of being struck by lightning while winning the lottery on your birthday twice are higher than this asteroid hitting Earth. So 2024 YR4 is not heading for our planet. Everyone can breathe easy. But not many people realize that at one point humanity was staring right over the edge. At its most dangerous, Y4 was considered the most worrisome asteroid. Rated 3 out of 10 on the Torino scale, the risk rating system for asteroids created by Professor Richard Benzel at MIT. Think of it as a DEFCON system, but for space rocks instead of nuclear war. Now that rating has dropped from 3 to 0. A genuine piece of good news. Even though the world still faces threats like earthquakes or catastrophic floods. According to NASA's Century Monitoring System, on December 22, 2032, instead of turning a city to ashes, this asteroid will simply glide past Earth, perhaps even waving as it passes by. 2024 Y4 was discovered in December 2024 and measures about 54 m long. It isn't big enough to wipe out humanity, but it could easily turn a major city into an unexpected crater. NASA experts estimate that if this asteroid hit Earth, it would release energy equal to 8 million tons of TNT, 500 times more powerful than the atomic bomb that ended World War II in Japan. Depending on where it struck, the consequences could be millions of deaths. The scale of destruction would surpass anything the world has ever known. So, we should all feel grateful that this space rock is passing us by. At least for now. Still, space is full of surprises and rebellious rocks. So NASA isn't letting its guard down. That's why the agency has been testing ways to deflect dangerous asteroids. For example, the DART mission, a project where a spacecraft was deliberately crashed into an asteroid to see if its path could be changed. And it actually worked. Professor Benzel predicts that in the future NASA will discover many more near-Earth objects like 2024 YR4. In truth, that's a good thing. The more we know about these space rocks, the less likely we are to be caught off guard by one. After all, nobody wants to go out the way the dinosaurs did. Right. Science or science fiction. In the frigid Arctic, a plan straight out of science fiction is quietly underway. Could humanity's last hope really rest with a handful of scientists in heavy coats and a super long hose? That's what's happening right now. Out on the endless Arctic ice, they are silently pumping seawater onto the surface, as if their survival depends on every drop. They're watering the ice. At first glance, the plan sounds like genius or madness. This isn't some weird reality television show, but an actual experiment aimed at slowing global warming. A crisis that could turn Earth into either a fireball or a block of ice. Nobody really knows which. The idea: if the sea ice can be made thicker, it will last longer. reflect more sunlight, and keep the dark ocean from absorbing so much energy. In theory, this might slow or even partially reverse the damage humans have caused. But is this the magic fix for the climate, or just a temporary band-aid slapped onto a car that's already breaking down? Many experts remain skeptical. That's where the controversial idea of geoengineering comes in. The ultimate human attempt to hack the planet and repair the results of centuries of mistakes. It's not solving the root problem, just covering up the cracks. Some geoengineering strategies, like planting more trees or storing carbon underground, sound reasonable enough. But there are wilder proposals, too, like making clouds whiter by spraying sea salt into the sky, or even blocking out the sun, like Mr. Burns in the cartoon, hoping to bounce light back into space instead of forcing the world to switch on the lights. Tools older than humanity itself. There was a time when bone tools more than 80,000 years old discovered in Africa were considered the oldest evidence of technological evolution among human ancestors. But then archaeology was forced to rethink everything after the discovery of the Lamchi toolkit artifacts dated to 3 million years ago. They were found in a dry riverbed in Kenya, consisting of stones that had been shaped and struck, designed to fit comfortably in the hand, perfect for cutting meat or cracking nuts. Remarkably, at that point in time, modern humans didn't even exist. This means some distant unnamed ancestor had already learned to fashion stone tools for survival. These tools are in fact 700,000 years older than the previous record-holding artifacts. According to Jason Lewis from Rutgers University, this discovery shook the traditional belief that skills like tool making, eating meat, and language only began with Homo sapiens. The truth is, the ability to make tools, one of the earliest markers of intelligence, took root long before Homo sapiens walked the earth. And though keystones are a silent message from an era history has yet to name, drilling holes, pumping seawater, and the controversy, back to the warriors in fur coats in the Arctic. The plan of Dr. Shaw Fitzgerald and his research team at Cambridge University sounds simple enough. First, drill a hole in the ice. Next, pump seawater up and let it freeze on the surface. Repeat the process, thickening the ice layer bit by bit. In their small test area, they managed to add a few centimeters of thickness, a glimmer of hope, frozen into the Arctic cold. But when it comes to scaling up to save the entire Arctic, things get much more complicated. The Arctic isn't a backyard skating rink. It's an enormous, intricate ecosystem. So, it's no surprise many experts remain skeptical. Professor Martin Segar of Exeter University is not convinced. He points out that salty ice melts more quickly, which means pumping seawater could actually make the ice disappear even faster. Professor Julian Stroh of University College London is even more direct, calling the idea of applying this method to the entire Arctic Ocean completely crazy. Yet, Dr. Fitzgerald and his colleagues insist they're only running experiments, not touting a miracle cure. They stress that cutting fossil fuel use must still be the top priority. Still, they warn even if humanity stopped using fossil fuels right now, the Arctic would still be facing serious danger. Public opinion is sharply divided. Is this a new beacon of hope or just another reckless human gamble with nature? Almost everyone has heard the rumor that most of the world's population descends from Jenghaskan. Sounds like a wild conspiracy, but modern genetic science has actually confirmed it. Jenghaskan ruled the Mongol Empire from 1162 to 1227. He was a ruthless warrior known as much for his military genius as for his legendary appetite for women. He fathered countless children with women from all the lands he conquered. A large-scale genetic study published in 2013 in Nature showed that as many as 16 million modern men can trace their direct ancestry to Jenghaskan. It's not almost the whole world, but the number is staggering. National Geographic has also confirmed that about 8% of men in the area, once ruled by the Mongol Empire, carry nearly identical Y chromosomes. A chromosome passed from father to son. barely changing from generation to generation. By analyzing genetic markers, scientists can estimate when these variations first appeared. And in this case, it was about 1,000 years ago. What surprises the experts most is that they're not surprised at all. Throughout history, powerful men have always sought to secure their lineage by fathering as many children as possible. Genghis Khan was no exception. He had at least 6 official wives and about 500 concubines, mostly noble women, daughters of conquered tribes, or gifts from allies. And it seems he never kept anyone waiting. There is a mountain on earth so forbidding that even the world's greatest climbers have turned away, a place of cold, danger, an ever-present fear, forever out of human reach. This is Kaya, a geological wonder beyond the ordinary. Shrouded in icy mist and mystery, Kaya evokes awe at a glance. Even veteran mountaineers are known to declare, "No way! It is the mountain that cannot be conquered," hiding among frigid clouds, as if serving as the graveyard of sleeping giants. At 21,778 feet above sea level, Kyash is an absolute forbidden zone for anyone dreaming of reaching its peak. The highest ordinary people can go is Dolma Pass at about 18,000 feet, still a full 3,000 feet short of the summit. And even that journey is grueling unless one considers oxygen deprivation and bone-deep cold a form of recreation. But what makes Kyash truly untouchable? What could be hiding on the eternal snow caps of China? Spirituality and taboo. First, Kyash is not just a mountain. It is considered the uppermost chamber of spirituality, a holy ground for 4 major religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism and Bon. Hindus believe it is the abode of Shiva. Jains say their first patriarch attained liberation there. For Buddhists, Kyash is the very center of the universe, a place where all things converge. No one can deny the sacred power and the sense of personal insignificance in the face of this mighty mountain. Each year, thousands of pilgrims undertake the legendary Kyo's Manasarovaratra. They believe that simply gazing upon the mountain is enough to wipe away every bad deed from their lives. All wrongdoings and sinful thoughts just by looking at Kyash. Everything is returned to zero. But what about climbing the mountain? That is absolutely forbidden. Yet there was once a man, the only person said to have reached the summit, and he immediately regretted it. According to legend, nearly 1,000 years ago, a Tibetan sage named Milara made it to the top of Kyash, a spiritual poet from the 11th century. He had a troubled past before transforming himself through Buddhist practice. It is said that Milara climbed the mountain without ropes or guides, just sheer aesthetic discipline and unwavering faith. But after his incredible achievement, he came back and warned everyone, "Don't do it." The reason, he claimed, was that he discovered secrets there, things humanity was not ready to know. Mara had reached the home of the gods, and they were not pleased. Since then, no one has dared to set foot on Kyash's summit, and climbing the mountain is strictly forbidden. After years of research and debate, archaeologists have finally reached consensus on the very first form of common currency ever used across Europe. Around 5,000 years ago, our ancestors began using 3 objects as a medium of exchange: metal rings, bracelets, and axe blades. These 3 forms were the continent's earliest coins. They weren't just widely used to trade goods. They were standardized in both shape and weight. According to researchers at Leiden University, these objects were accepted as cash anywhere transactions took place. Dutch researchers analyzed more than 5,000 axe blades and metal rings dating from 2150 to 700 BC, spanning over 14 centuries. The artifacts found from Germany to Scandinavia were not isolated pieces, but entire hoards buried to keep wealth safe from danger. What astonished archaeologists was that regardless of location or era, the axe blades and bracelets were nearly identical in size and weight. 70% of the rings analyzed weighed about 195 g. A remarkable level of consistency, especially considering people at the time had no precise measuring systems. This was not only a major technical leap, but also a monumental milestone in human ingenuity, paving the way for the future global economy. The Freemasons are a real organization and one of the oldest and most widespread brotherhoods in the world. Among its legendary members are George Washington, Harry Houdini, Winston Churchill, and even Joseph Smith, founder of Mormonism. Given their absolute secrecy, it's no surprise the group has become the focus of countless wild conspiracy theories. The first document linking the Freemasons to a bizarre conspiracy dates back to 1786, when it was claimed they joined forces with the Illuminati and the Jesuits to form a new world order. That order, known as the New World Order, would secretly manipulate global events as they saw fit. An intriguing detail only fueled the rumors. Since 1935, the Latin phrase Novus Ordo Seclorum, meaning New World Order, has appeared on the U.S. $1 bill. There's no definitive evidence the Freemasons orchestrated every major event since the 18th century, but there's also no proof entirely ruling it out. The group dates back to medieval times, originating as a guild of stonemasons in Scotland. And so, conspiracy theorists continue searching for clues in the shadows of history, scientific mysteries and failed attempts to climb. Here's a curious fact. Kylo is much shorter than Everest. Yet, while thousands have summited Everest, some even in full chicken costumes, not a single person has ever officially stood atop Kyash. There have been mountaineers who tried, including two renowned Britain, Hugh Rutledge and R.C. Wilson. But the outcome was always the same: failure. One blamed a sudden storm. The other suspected mysterious forces were at work. Whatever the reason, all returned empty-handed, left only with frostbite and regret. In 1980, the Chinese government invited legendary climber Reinhold Messner to attempt Kyash. But at the last moment, he too withdrew. It was like Michael Jordan refusing a free throw because something was off with the hoop. There's something different about this mountain that everyone seems to feel. Some researchers think Kyash's shape is suspiciously similar to an artificial pyramid. That's not all. NASA satellite images even reveal patterns reminiscent of Shiva's face on the mountain slopes. And then there are the enormous stone ridges along its flanks, eerily resembling the bones of giants. Is it a group photo of the gods or simply a trick of nature? Whatever the case, Kyash remains an unsolved mystery. Deep sea, fish, and bad omens. A new doomsday omen has surfaced, this time from a strange sea creature stirring global unease. Though everyone is advised to stay calm, a little anxiety is understandable. The creature at the center of this commotion is none other than the oarfish, a rare visitor recently spotted in shallow waters near Baja California, Mexico. For those who know deep sea legends or mermaid tales, the oarfish is always considered a harbinger of misfortune. Its nickname, the doomsday fish, is no accident. This long ribbon-like fish has long been blamed for foretelling earthquakes, tsunamis, and all manner of disasters. It is the living embodiment of a sea monster reaching up to 11 m in length with a shimmering silver body and ghostly bright red fins. If someone designed a sea dragon for a video game, they'd struggle to outdo the bizarre appearance of the oarfish. This fish usually lives at depths of up to 900 m, far from human contact. That's why every time an oarfish unexpectedly surfaces, people immediately suspect something bad is coming, especially in Japan, where it's called Ryugu Natsukai, meaning messenger from the sea god's palace. The name alone is enough to awe and unnerve. According to Japanese legend, which stretches back centuries, the surfacing of this fish signals impending disaster, often earthquakes or tsunamis. History only adds to the fear. In 2011, 20 oarfish washed ashore in Japan just before the Tohoku earthquake, and tsunami struck with waves up to 36 m high, killing more than 15,000 people. In 2013, 2 were found on California's coast soon after. A 7-magnitude earthquake rocked the region. Is it just coincidence, or are these sea noodles truly omens? Evidence shows oarfish often rise right before major disasters, especially earthquakes. Some scientists think seismic activity disturbs deep water currents, causing the fish to become disoriented and drift upward. Another theory suggests carbon monoxide released from the seafloor confuses deep-sea creatures. Whatever the cause, oarfish tend to appear just before chaos erupts. And that's not all. Just days before the oarfish event, a deep-sea anglerfish was unexpectedly filmed off the Canary Islands right in broad daylight. These monsters from Finding Nemo usually live at nearly 2,000 m and rarely surface. So, when an anglerfish shows up near shore at the same time as an oarfish, the world's anxiety only grows and more than a few people start prepping for the end. But is disaster really near? Could a world-ending earthquake be waiting around the corner? The truth is, no one knows. Maybe we just need to wait a few more days or weeks if all stays quiet. It was only a false alarm. Deep in the remote lands of the North Caucasus lies the city of the dead, or Dargavs, long considered one of the world's most mysterious and haunting places. It is an ancient village dating to the 13th century, surrounded by hundreds of old stone tombs along the hillside. Dargavs has been abandoned for centuries, and information about it is extremely rare. Partly because of its remoteness, partly due to the fear it inspires. Even today, Russians steer clear, convinced that anyone alive who enters will never return. The legend began in the 18th century when a devastating plague swept through these mountains. Local tribes built quarantine houses for the sick right next to the cemetery to prevent the illness from spreading to the healthy. Amid the plague, the dying dragged themselves into the graveyard, awaiting death in agony. Corpses filled the stone tombs until no one dared or wanted to bury the dead. After the plague passed, the villagers left for good, abandoning Dargavs to rot, never to return. And so the city became a ghost. No living soul dares set foot there anymore. A new ice age is quietly lurking. Imagine humanity finally acting as one. A scenario that sounds almost impossible. But suppose people truly cut emissions, stopped burning fossil fuels, and even managed to reverse global warming. That would be an extraordinary achievement. But what if all those efforts backfired? What if healing the climate accidentally triggered a new ice age? In that case, the fear of rising seas might give way to digging cars out of deep freeze. Earth has always been dramatic about temperature. Over the last billion years, our planet has swung between blazing heat and deep ice ages as if the cosmic air conditioner had a mind of its own. There have been periods when ice covered most of the globe, interrupted by warmer stretches like the current interglacial era humanity has enjoyed since the last ice age ended about 12,000 years ago. Scientists believe another ice age will come eventually, maybe in 10,000 or even 100,000 years. A problem for the distant future. But what if it arrives sooner than expected? One theory holds that greenhouse gases trapped in the atmosphere are delaying the next ice age. Normally, natural climate cycles spanning thousands of years would push Earth into another cold spell. But humanity's addiction to fossil fuels could be holding that off. In other words, global warming has overpowered the planet's natural cooling mechanisms. Yet, an opposing hypothesis says the opposite might happen. Some scientists believe global climate change itself could trigger an ice age by disrupting ocean currents. The Gulf Stream, a giant conveyor belt carrying warm water from the tropics to Europe, could slow or even stop if Arctic ice melts too much. That's why some researchers have experimented with watering the ice to prevent this. Picture the Gulf Stream as a massive conveyor feeding warmth across the Atlantic. Scientists have found it has already slowed by as much as 30%. If it weakens too much, Europe's temperatures could plummet, signaling the start of a new ice age. The irony is that climate change itself might freeze part of the world again. The truth is, Even top climate experts can't say for certain when or even if that icy scenario will actually happen. It's possible humanity will live in waterlogged cities from rising seas before Earth slips into the next ice age. So which would you choose? A world underwater or one buried in ice? Built around 2500 BC. The Great Pyramid of Giza was long believed to be the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu. If that were all, it would be nothing more than a massive stone gravestone. But its core still hides countless unsolved mysteries. Many theories suggest there are secret tunnels under the pyramid leading to as yet undiscovered places. Some believe the three pyramids are actually gigantic batteries meant to power alien spacecraft. Another theory holds there is a secret entrance near the top of Khufu's pyramid, leading down to unknown chambers. Recently, an international team from the Scan Pyramids project used non-invasive scanning technology to investigate inside the pyramid. They discovered a strange void between layers of stone, not connected to any known passage or chamber. This empty space sits above the Queen's chamber and right beside the King's chamber. Crucially, there's no passageway leading in. The only way to reach it would be to drill through thick stone, a feat that's currently impossible. Maybe in the past, a secret corridor once connected to this place. But over time that entrance was sealed off. No one knows what's inside a body, treasure, or just a construction error. All we know now is that a void exists inside the pyramid. And we have yet to see what's within. The Pias canoe is considered the oldest boat ever discovered. There may once have been an even older one. But so far, none has surpassed its age. Radiocarbon dating shows the canoe was crafted between 8040 and 7510 BC. A time when people still lived as hunter-gatherers, had not yet settled permanently, and had just begun making sharp stone tools like knives, arrows, and axes. The canoe was discovered by chance in 1955 during highway construction near the village of Pias in the Netherlands, giving rise to its name. A local worker noticed part of a wooden log sticking out of the ground. When excavated, it was sent to Groningen University and freeze-dried to prevent decay. The canoe is about 3 m long, carved from a single trunk of Scots pine. The same wood later cultures used for dugout boats. With its simple shape, it was likely used for travel on rivers or lakes not suited for open seas. No one knows exactly which culture created this canoe or whether it was for fishing or just getting around. Even more surprising is that a nearly identical canoe, the world's second oldest, was found thousands of miles away near Dufuna village in Nigeria. They were made 2,000 years apart, but share a strangely similar design. What connected these two distant boats in ancient history? No one knows for sure. But it remains one of history's most fascinating mysteries. A looming disaster threatens an event that could claim thousands of lives. If you thought last summer was hot enough to fry an egg on the sidewalk, brace yourself because the temperature is only going higher. Global warming continues to heat up and people are feeling the extremes more than ever. Some have already collapsed in the relentless heat and with the wet bulb effect. Humanity faces a truly deadly threat. So, what is wet bulb? Simply put, it's the worst-case scenario for heat waves. Even a guaranteed death sentence if it exceeds human limits. Normally, the body operates at an ideal temperature of about 36.66 degrees Celsius. But when both heat and humidity soar, sweat, the body's natural cooling mechanism stops working. At 35 degrees Celsius and 100% humidity, sweat can't evaporate at all. Since sweat provides up to 80% of the body's cooling, this spells disaster. Unable to cool down, the body quickly overheats, just like a car with a broken radiator. Within 6 hours, the outcome can be fatal. In the past, such extreme heat events were rare, but now they've become a real crisis. The elderly and vulnerable are suffering the most, and global temperature records keep being shattered. Take India, where relentless heat has upended daily life. Just this April, broadcaster Lam Madrasena fainted live on air while reporting a heat wave. later explaining that high temperatures and a broken cooling system had overwhelmed her. But she wasn't the only victim. For days, temperatures in India hovered between 40 and 46 degrees Celsius, right at the edge of human survival. In Africa, the situation is even harsher. Mali saw temperatures soar above 48 degrees Celsius, a level many thought possible only in places like Las Vegas. Hospitals were overwhelmed. At Gabriel Tour Hospital alone, 102 deaths from heat were reported in just a few days. Last August, cities like Dubai and Doha came close to hitting the wet bulb threshold. Things only got worse as humidity shot up, driving the actual temperature even higher. For every 1 degree Celsius increase, the air holds 7% more moisture. The more humid it is, the worse the heat feels. That's why Las Vegas's dry heat feels more bearable, while Florida's humid heat at the same temperature is much more dangerous. It's the wet bulb effect. It's clear that the greatest threat facing humanity may not be asteroids or volcanoes, but the hot, humid air itself. The future is heating up like never before. A 2020 study predicts wet bulb events, once lasting only 1 or 2 hours at a time, could stretch beyond 6 hours a day by 60. Then just stepping outside could be a death sentence. By 2070, an estimated 3 billion people could be living in places no longer suitable for human life because of extreme heat. Maybe ice cream sales will skyrocket. Is it time for humanity to consider the mystery of the Savanowski crater in Alaska? Alaska is famous for breathtaking landscapes, but few places are as intriguing as the Savanowski crater. This enormous hole in the earth has baffled scientists for years. Is it a portal to another dimension? A mark left by visiting aliens, or an entrance to a hollow earth? Scientists say no. But the truth is they still haven't found any geological evidence to explain its origin. Savanowski crater measures about 490 m wide and more than 110 m deep, according to a 1978 report from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Half of the crater is now a beautiful lake filled by rain and melting snow. From above, Savanowski looks just like a meteor impact site. But here's the problem. Scientists have found zero signs that a meteor ever struck here. Normally, a meteor crater is surrounded by shattered rock, debris, or evidence of extreme pressure. But despite careful surveys, experts found nothing like that. Another theory suggests Savanowski could be a maar, a kind of volcanic crater formed when magma from the Earth's crust meets groundwater, causing a massive steam explosion and leaving behind a wide water-filled hole. Alaska's Eureka Mars, formed in 1977 after 10 days of eruption, are a textbook example. But around Savanowski there's no evidence of volcanic activity. No lava flows. No magma chambers. No mysterious plumes. Nothing to suggest it was created by a volcano. So what did create it? That's the most fascinating part. No one knows for sure. To this day, the Savanowski crater remains one of Alaska's greatest geological mysteries. Whether it's the result of an ancient explosion or a cosmic collision, the experts are still left scratching their heads. In Japan, there is a stone shrouded in ancient legend known as Sasaki, or the Death Stone. According to folklore, anyone who touches this stone will die instantly. The origin of this deadly curse comes from a mystical story. Within the stone is sealed the spirit of a nine-tailed fox, a creature that once transformed itself into a beautiful woman named Tamamo Nome, plotting to assassinate Emperor Toba. But the cunning fox failed against the emperor's wisdom and power. After its defeat, the demon spirit was sealed within a stone and thrown onto a volcano. Since then, the stone has lain motionless for centuries. In 1957, Sasaki was officially designated a historic site. But in 2022, something no one expected happened. The legendary stone suddenly split in two. Visitors witnessing the moment were stunned because legend has it that when the stone breaks, the spirit of the nine-tailed fox is released to sow disaster once more. For believers in Japan's ancient faith, this was a bad omen. Many think the spirit imprisoned for generations has escaped, and the world is about to face a new era of darkness. However, meteorological experts claim the split was simply the result of cold weather, rainwater, and ice seeping into cracks, causing the stone to break apart naturally. At least that's the only hope left. Part Ventetta. Yellowstone supervolcano. America's ticking time bomb underground. Deep beneath Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. A ticking time bomb has been quietly building for more than 640,000 years. This isn't doomsday science fiction, but the reality of the Yellowstone supervolcano. A magma chamber capable of a magnitude 8 eruption 100 times more powerful than the infamous blast at Krakatoa. Thankfully, humanity has never witnessed a supervolcano eruption in modern history. But now, with the power of artificial intelligence, researchers can simulate the terrifying consequences if Yellowstone ever wakes up. Using Google's AI image effects technology, the scenario painted is truly chilling. If Yellowstone erupts, the immediate impact would be catastrophic. Lava would flow out as far as 40 m, incinerating everything in its path. But that's just the beginning. Within an 80 kilometers radius around the eruption, entire towns would be buried by clouds of superheated ash and rock. The kind of disaster that once turned Pompeii into a ghost city. Meanwhile, the United States would be blanketed by a suffocating layer of ash, while the entire planet would plunge into a volcanic winter lasting years. Yellowstone's initial explosion could release energy equal to 875,000 megatons of TNT, over 100 times the total yield of all nuclear bombs ever detonated by humans. Professor Tamsin Mather, a geologist at Oxford, explains that such colossal eruptions typically create massive calderas, as the Earth's crust collapses from below. This process can bring even more magma to the surface, turning the initial disaster into a chain reaction like a bomb going off again and again. For those lucky enough to survive the first catastrophe, the next horror is volcanic ash. Unlike the soft, light ash from a campfire, volcanic ash is thick, sharp, and heavy enough to collapse roofs. Simulations show Yellowstone's ash cloud could ride the winds for days, blanketing nearly all of North America. The ash could travel as far as 1,500 kilometers, reaching Miami or Los Angeles. Under the right conditions, even London could see a rain of ash like a snowstorm. But far more terrifying. And the devastation wouldn't end there. Ash covering America's farmlands would destroy crops, sparking a global food crisis. The only good news is that experts believe Yellowstone isn't waking up anytime soon. It will erupt, but not soon enough to panic over yet. If that day ever comes, perhaps even the year 2020 will seem like a fond memory. Off the coast of Kent, England, lies a small, gloomy island known as the Island of the Dead. 2 centuries ago, it served as a cemetery for the unfortunate. A lonely, tragic patch of land. Today, the island is uninhabited, owned by Natural England, and leased to 2 people who maintain its ecosystem. Because it's a critical breeding ground for birds, access is strictly forbidden without official permission. Though archaeologists are not allowed to dig, nothing can hide the fact that dozens of human skeletons still lie scattered on the island, exposed to the wind and sand. These bones are thought to belong to men and boys who died of infectious disease while imprisoned not in ordinary jails but on prison hulk ships anchored off the island's coast. Inside the ships, horrific sanitary conditions led to rapid outbreaks. Many died almost immediately after arrival, and their bodies were hurriedly buried on the island. Now, as sea levels rise and the coastline erodes, wooden coffins and remains are slowly emerging from the ground. Some bodies are washed away by the waves, while others are picked apart by birds or decay out in the open. A bleak fate, even for those who once bore guilt. In the past, the world has seen global floods, and scientists say it could happen again. A worldwide deluge, straight out of the Bible. may be looming on the horizon. Humanity might need even bigger boats. Tens of thousands of years ago, a massive Antarctic ice sheet melted, causing sea levels to rise by as much as 9 meters. Now, as the planet heats up, new research warns that we are on the brink of another catastrophic melt. If history repeats, humanity could face a worldwide flood. A team led by geologist Anders Carlson at Oregon State University discovered that the Antarctic ice collapse happened about 125,000 years ago under climate conditions much like today. Whether caused by a prehistoric civilization or simply Mother Nature, the result was a flood that drowned the world. To uncover evidence of this ancient disaster, Carlson's team analyzed marine sediment cores from off the Antarctic coast. These long mud tubes hold records of climate change stretching back thousands of years. Unlike today, the warming 125,000 years ago wasn't caused by people. Scientists suspect a small change in Earth's orbit and tilt warmed the northern hemisphere, triggering global climate upheaval. So, how close are we to a true global flood? Closer than most realize. In the last 25 years, 3 trillion tons of ice have melted from Antarctica, with the melting rate tripling in just a decade. That's more than 2 quadrillion liters of water pouring into the oceans, enough to fill a billion swimming pools or drown the entire state of Texas under 4 m of water. And this is just the beginning. In 2019 alone, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration recorded more than 600 tidal floods. But NASA warns things will get worse in the 2030s when the moon's orbit enters its 18.6-year amplification cycle. For half the cycle, the moon suppresses tides. For the other half, it amplifies them. When the next amplification hits, coastal cities could face flooding every day. If you live near the sea, it might be time for high water pants and houses on stilts. Flooding in coastal cities is only the opening act for the next great flood. British explorer Andrew Collins believes a forgotten underworld lies beneath the Giza Plateau, a labyrinth built by the pharaohs, now home only to bats and deadly spiders. Andrew claims he found the entrance to this underworld after studying the records of Henry Salt, Britain's consul general in Egypt in the early 19th century. In 1817, Salt and famed explorer Giovanni Caviglia surveyed the tunnels beneath the pyramid. Based on those notes, Andrew located an unmarked tomb west of the Great Pyramid. From there, a fissure at the tomb's base leads into a natural rock cave, expanding into a strange underground chamber never before documented. If Andrew's claims are true, then behind the dust and cobwebs lies a doorway to a hidden ancient world. But the experts disagree. Zahi Hawass, head of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, flatly rejects the discovery as nonsense. He insists there's nothing new left to discover at Giza. For a long time, scientists have debated the origins of Earth's oceans. A classic theory holds that oceans were formed when icy comets collided with our planet. However, new research offers a completely different explanation for the birth of seawater. Recent findings suggest that the oceans we know may have actually leaked out from deep inside the Earth. These results were just published in the journal Science. And experts now believe that right beneath our feet lies a colossal reservoir of water so vast it's said to be 3 times greater than all the surface oceans combined, locked away within the Earth's mantle at depths of at least 640 kilometers. Even more astonishing, all of this water is trapped inside rock. The rock is called ringwoodite, a brilliant blue mineral that only forms under immense heat and pressure, the kind found deep inside the planet. According to Stephen Jacobson of Northwestern University, the water that makes up today's oceans was once squeezed from the rock hundreds of millions of years ago, almost like the Earth itself was sweating. This discovery has made the water cycle much more complicated. Water doesn't just move between the atmosphere and the oceans, but also seeps deep into the Earth, soaking into the mantle and gradually transforming into ringwoodite. According to Smithsonian, the research team used seismic instruments to measure how energy waves from earthquakes travel through the Earth beneath the United States. When these waves pass through areas rich in ringwoodite, They slowed down significantly. Scientists believe the water-saturated ringwoodite explains why seismic waves seem to drag strange creatures. Scientists have long wondered just how deep life can survive within Earth's crust. The answer seems to have emerged thanks to bizarre creatures found in the dark. Deep gold mines of South Africa. These are nematodes. Roundworms, now recognized as the deepest living complex organisms ever discovered by humans. No one knows exactly how these tiny worms managed to survive so far underground. But scientists believe they may have inhabited the gold mines for thousands of years. Their existence proves that complex life can adapt and thrive much deeper than anyone previously imagined. At these depths, hot, dark, nearly devoid of oxygen, filled with toxic gases, and with food in desperately short supply, experts once assumed only single-celled microbes could exist. Yet, these roundworms flourish in such extreme conditions. Nematodes can tolerate extreme heat, cold, even severe drought. They possess a special survival trick called the Dare state, a form of prolonged hibernation that lets them survive until food is found again. Their toughness is so impressive that nematodes have even survived a trip aboard the Space Shuttle Columbia, enduring both the harsh environment of space and the shuttle's fiery re-entry. They have been found everywhere from the hottest deserts to the coldest reaches of Antarctica, and even inside humans and sperm whales. Now, these tiny organisms hold the title of deepest dwelling animals. The Bear Lake Monster straddling the border between Utah and Idaho. There is a monster that has haunted locals for centuries. Known as the Bear Lake Monster. According to native legend, this creature is a water demon lurking in the deep lake. The tale was passed down from the region's indigenous people long before Europeans set foot on this land. They believed the creature was a kind of giant sea serpent. Swift, fierce, and unlike anything else in the area. In 1868, the first modern records of the monster appeared in the Deseret News. Panic spread as rumors circulated that swimmers venturing too close to the water's edge were dragged down to the lake's bottom, vanishing without a trace. Since then, Bear Lake became an unofficial no-go zone. People avoided camping near the shore. Children were forbidden to swim, and fear became a fixture in local culture. For more than a century and a half, occasional witnesses have claimed to see the monster. The most recent was Mike Furs, who said that while out boating with friends, he saw something enormous sweep beneath the surface, sending up waves nearly 6 m high. Yet despite all efforts by scientists, no definitive evidence of the Bear Lake Monster has ever been found. And perhaps that is what keeps this legend alive. Part fawn sleeping volcanoes. Scientists have just revealed a mysterious Jurassic world, an ancient volcanic field discovered in Australia. This chain of volcanoes dating back to the age of dinosaurs has lain dormant underground for millions of years, completely hidden from those above. There are about 100 such volcanoes believed to have gone inactive around 180 million years ago, stretching over an area of nearly 7,500 square km. They were discovered in the Cooper and Eromanga basins, desert regions at the heart of Australia. Millions of years ago, these volcanoes towered above the land, erupting lava and ash almost continuously. Over time, they were buried under hundreds of meters of rock, lying silent until now. 30 years ago, Australia's first oil and gas drilling revealed unique rock samples formed from cooled magma nearly 200 million years ago. According to Simon Halford of the University of Adelaide, decades of fossil fuel exploration have provided scientists with an enormous data set for this area. When analyzed closely, it revealed the existence of a forgotten volcanic field. The good news for humanity is that this volcanic network is now entirely inactive. In the Jurassic period, things were very different. These volcanoes were incredibly violent, erupting lava and ash almost non-stop. But today, there's no need to worry, these giants underground won't be waking up under our feet. North of Athens, on the slopes of Mount Penteli, lies a strange cave called Davalis, a place shrouded in legend and fear for centuries. Since the 19th century, Greeks have reported mysterious phenomena around this area. The cave's entrance looks peaceful, but once inside, visitors get lost in a dark, winding maze leading deep into the mountain to a still, stagnant pool at the center. This is what gives the site its ever-present, eerie atmosphere. Excavations have uncovered artifacts linked to the god Pan and his nymphs, proof that the place was once a mysterious site of worship in ancient times. It's possible those rituals never truly ended. In the 1980s, locals claimed that satanic cults once gathered in the deep caves. The Greek government even sealed off the cave at one point, offering no explanation. Today, visitors say their electronic devices fail, water runs uphill, and some people have even vanished without a trace after entering. Bartrain Gebal Haredi. In Egypt, an archaeological team has just announced a series of major discoveries at the Gebal el Haredi site. They uncovered an ancient watchtower and 85 new tombs, each carved deep into the cliffside. The watchtower is a remarkable structure, proof that Egyptian engineering extended far beyond just pyramids and royal tombs. Built on the banks of the Nile during the reign of Tami III, the third king of the Tmik dynasty after the death of Alexander the Great. This tower was used to control traffic and collect tolls. Imagine it as an ancient toll booth. Every boat passing by was required to pay a fee to the authorities. As for the tombs, they are scattered throughout the cliffs, ranging from simple laborers' graves to elaborate multi-level complexes filled with side chambers. At least 30 of these tombs still contain death certificates carved in stone listing the names of the deceased, their ages, social status, and parents' names. These are rare documentary fragments from thousands of years ago. The Kola Super Deep Bore Hole was once a highly ambitious Cold War project aiming to drill as deep as possible through Earth's crust. Fortunately, the drill didn't break through to the other side and open a back door to America, as some joked. Instead, the borehole drilled on Russia's Kola Peninsula inside the Arctic Circle by Soviet scientists expose just how limited human exploration of Earth's interior really is. To this day, the Kola borehole remains the deepest artificial point on the planet, reaching a depth of 12,262 m. Local folklore once claimed this was the gateway to hell, with some people swearing they heard the screams of tormented souls echoing from below. It was probably just the wind in the shaft or the shifting sounds of Earth itself. But nobody denies the place is unsettling. After 20 years of relentless drilling, scientists only managed to reach about 1/3 of the way through the Earth's crust. This shows just how thick the planet's outer shell really is. They didn't even reach the mantle. The thinnest crust is still about 40 kilometers thick, while the mantle below stretches for another 900 kilometers. Beyond that is the Earth's core, a place humans will likely never see firsthand. The Kola Super Deep Bore Hole was abandoned after the collapse of the Soviet Union. The hole still exists, but nothing more has been done with it. According to the BBC, Japan is now starting its own new deep drilling project. Only time will tell how far they'll get. In the mystical land of Ireland lies a place of surreal beauty and unfathomable mystery. Newgrange, dated to around 5,200 years ago from the Neolithic era. Newgrange is not alone. It is just one part of the vast Brunwyn archaeological complex, home to 3 major tombs, Nath D and Newgrange. Newgrange stands like a magical symbol at the heart of ancient Earth. The stones here are carved with mysterious Celtic patterns, spirals, and abstract motifs. Over 97 large stones are adorned with these designs, forming the main structure of the giant tomb. However, according to archaeologists, the artists weren't the same people who built the structure. The Celtic people didn't arrive in Ireland until thousands of years after Newgrange was finished, suggesting the carvings may have been added by much later generations. No one knows exactly which mythology once surrounded the tomb. But one thing is certain. It was built with stunning precision to align with the sun on the winter solstice. Directly above the entrance to the main passage is a small roof box. At the precise moment of the winter solstice, Sunlight shoots straight through this opening, illuminating the innermost chamber. For about 15 minutes, the dark room is flooded with dazzling golden light, a magical scene that seems ripped from legend. And to this very day, thousands of years after its construction, people still gather at New Grange every winter solstice to witness that sacred moment of fragile eternal thread, connecting the present with the distant past. During the Renaissance in Florence, a real-life conspiracy shook the city. The Sigh. It was a secret plot by the powerful Pazzi family to overthrow the ruling Medici family. It all began with the Pope, the banking system, and a piece of land. Giovanni della Ro, governor of Rome, wanted to buy the small town of Imola to establish a new papal state. But Lorenzo de' Medici, head of the Medici Bank, also wanted that land. When Giovanni appealed to the Medici Bank, he was denied. He turned to the Sigh Bank and the deal went through. But what happened next was even more shocking. The Patti family plotted to assassinate Lorenzo and sought advice from Pope Sixtus. Although the Pope didn't give a direct order, he hinted that eliminating the Medi would benefit everyone. On April 26, 1478, the assassination attempt took place. Lorenzo was wounded but survived while his brother was killed. The plot failed and Lorenzo consolidated his power, exiling the entire Pazzi family from Florence. If you found these mysterious stories fascinating, let us know your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of our future explorations. See you in the next video.